Welcome into the Why You're Wrong Fantasy Football Podcast. We're on episode 32. We're going to be doing a draft review because we just started a fantasy football league specifically for the podcast. Now, we did this secretly, invited those to the league who participated with the podcast over the past year. But now we're going to open it up to more people following this year. So if you have interest in it, keep up with the podcast all year round. The team who does the worst will get eliminated, and that will be replaced with a new listener. But on today's episode, we're going to be focusing on going over the teams that myself, Bryan, and John put together, going to go over some flex plays for this upcoming week, and some streamers for defense and quarterback, if that's the route you went and you did a late round style. But guys, I'm excited. Football season is back. It feels like Christmas morning, and I can't wait.
You got two days left, and we got the first Thursday night game, which is actually a pretty good one. Cowboys, Bucks. I'm pretty excited. And then Sunday, I'm probably not moving from my couch for about 10 to 12 straight hours, so I'm excited.
So to get on with our typical standard intro, I'm your monotone master. Bryan, the fantasy force here, is just talking. We're still in new setups. We all just moved to new places in our lives. We are now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find us. You can also find us on social media on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and as Why You're Wrong FFB, and also on Twitter. We're not super active on those platforms just because none of us have enough time to do this and our full-time jobs, but we're going to be as active as much as possible. So the best way to hear us is listening to us on your podcasting platform or even just watching the show on YouTube. John may not be chiming in as much because he's also multitasking with another draft and on his own, so we can go to John real quickly to just ask him about his draft going on. But let's start off with some impactful news. So as we just got the updates on our phone, Le'Veon Bell has signed with the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like this kind of creates not a messy situation, but almost like a dark cloud overhanging everyone that just drafted Gus Edwards at his peak ADP.
I feel like Le'Veon is just past his prime. I feel like Le'Veon's still good, but I just don't see how the Ravens are going to use him as much as people think they're actually going to use him. I think that Gus Edwards probably still has the RB1 role, and I doubt that Le'Veon really has a lot of effect in it. Like the way that we saw him on the Chiefs, I mean, he really didn't do that much on the Chiefs. However, they were a pretty pass-heavy offense, but now the Ravens are more of a run-styled offense, so it'll be interesting to see how they use him. But for now, I mean, I'm going to probably keep him on the waiver wire.
Yeah, I mean, I think really the gist of it is Gus the Bus is going to go into the same role he was last year. He's going to have a few more carries, and then, Le'Veon's going to have the same kind of role he had last year too, as the overall RB2. He'll catch some passes out of the backfield, but it's honestly a situation I would avoid.
Who's that? Who's the other running back that's competing against him too? I've always been seeing his name, but they're also saying that he's more of the RB2 over Le'Veon right now, but I don't see it. I mean, Le'Veon
the rookie. What's his name? Keep talking about Le'Veon. I'll look at his name right now.
Yeah, I mean, we all know Le'Veon was actually good when he was on the Steelers. However, he had the best offensive line when he was on the Steelers. So now he's going to a team that runs the ball a lot. I mean, with Lamar Jackson too, they can run some type of RPO offense. So it could work in his benefit, but again, I mean, I guarantee he's probably going to go off the waiver wire for most teams, but I highly doubt he's going to do a lot as he gets adjusted to the playbook and such.
Yeah, I feel like he's definitely just going to be more of a media distraction versus an actual distraction to the production of the team. There's going to be a few moments where Le'Veon's going to be on the field. He could vulture some points from Gus Edwards, and people are going to be really upset, but I feel like you can still play Gus with confidence, and Le'Veon Bell's is a distraction piece at the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
It's Tyson Williams is the other running back to keep in mind. That's actually the RB2 right now. I think the thing to note is Le'Veon Bell just signed, so he's not going to have any impact on week one. So if you're playing, you can play Gus with confidence week one, not having to worry about anything at all.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Also today, Saints have released running back Latavius Murray since he did not want to take a pay cut. So that basically just says you don't even have to worry about Latavius Murray vulturing some touchdowns. But if you're an insurance running back drafter like I am, you do have to be looking towards either Tony Jones Jr. or Dwayne Washington as Alvin Kamara's new handcuffs need to be aware of as the season starts.
It's Alvin Kamara season. He's getting 500 touches. Said it before the podcast started. I'm going to say it now. Alvin Kamara, RB1 overall in fantasy this season.
Another
because you draft him in another league. He is absolutely biased in this situation.
I mean, I also have stock in Kamara from other leagues. I just think Kamara's going to have a great year regardless. I think once they named Jameis Winston the starter, I was drafting him number 3 in confidence in every mock draft I was doing. I had third pick in another draft. I thought he was going to fall to me. Someone took him at 2 because people are really high on Alvin Kamara. And I think if you're in a full PPR or half PPR, you have to be, because he gets about 80 receptions per year, which is just outrageous production on top of the running game that he's going to get regardless.
I think he had 80 catches last year, and I think I saw a stat that the second highest catches per running back was Naheem Hines with like 62, and then J.D. McKissick with 59. So it's a pretty far margin of how many balls he actually does catches, which is why my argument against Kamara over Henry is so much higher.
Another bit of news that you actually now have to pay attention to for the opening night is that Chris Godwin, he's not out, but he's been added to the injury report for the opening game with, I think it's a quad or a thigh injury. So for some reason, if Chris Godwin gets ruled out, I think Antonio Brown, who people took super late in drafts, could be actually very valuable going into Thursday, because they're going to be playing against a terrible defense. And typically at the beginning of seasons, defenses take a little bit longer to catch up and adjust. So Antonio Brown could be in for a big night if Chris Godwin does get ruled out.
Yeah, I'm an Antonio Brown hater. I really am, but I think he's going to overtake Godwin as the wide receiver 2 on this team.
Agree. I also think that they're also the weather. It's like raining in Tampa Bay for like the last week, so we could have a lot of rain during that game, which could also affect a lot of the receivers on that team, just to keep in mind.
So those are the guys you got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, the tight ends. So Gronkowski, Antonio Brown. On the Dallas side, you got to be aware of CeeDee Lamb, Mari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott, and Michael Gallup if you're in a deep league. But also Zach Martin, the Cowboys' probably best offensive lineman left, will be missing the opener because he has just been put on the COVID IR due to a positive test a few days ago.
A little irrelevant, but I mean, I guess we got to show some respect to the offensive linemen out there.
I mean, they're playing against the Bucs defense, where if you're losing a lineman against one of the best defenses in the league, you do have to kind of just cap the highest of the expectations you might have for the Cowboys run game at the moment.
Definitely.
Yeah, Zeke might not have a good game.
I can still see Zeke bowling his way in for a touchdown and 80 yards, but I think a giant game is out of the question just for the opener in week 1 against the strong defense.
I drafted Amari Cooper, so I'm hoping the Bucs go up early, and there's a lot of garbage time airing the ball out to CeeDee Lamb, all those CeeDee Lamb owners out there, and all those Amari Cooper owners.
And then the last bit of news, the Ravens signed Mark Andrews to a 4-year, $56 million contract extension. He is the only guy left in the room in Baltimore. So if you took Mark Andrews, I would definitely expect him to easily see 80% of Lamar's targets this week.
Hey, he got paid though, so watch him take a few games off this year.
If he got paid $56 million, I can't wait to see what Travis Kelce gets.
Oh, it's going to be scary. But now to get into the beef part of our episode, our draft reviews. So I despise Yahoo's draft grades because I feel the way they grade on Yahoo is basically based off of if you filled out your starters first and what positions you took instead of actually rounding out your team as a whole. So Yahoo's draft grades for our 3 teams are actually the lowest 3 of 4 in the league that we just started. So we're going to start off the huge disrespect to our teams. But we're going to start off with Bryan because Yahoo gave him a B-, followed by myself, who they gave a flat C. And they did John, Raging Rumney, they did you dirty, giving you a C- as 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I mean, Yahoo knows. I mean, B- isn't great, but it's ahead of you guys. So Yahoo's got to know about it, you know?
All right, so let's take
I can't even remember what pick I had. Yeah, I'll go through my team a little bit and how I drafted. But considering we don't have the draft order in place, I'll kind of just roll through it. I think I got the 7 pick. I might have gotten the 8 pick. But either way, I was put in a dilemma where I wanted someone like Austin Eckler, but he was taken the pick before me. Or I could have went Aaron Jones, but instead I went with my gut. And well, actually, Berkey, you took Eckler, which kind of broke my heart. But I ended up going with Devontae Adams. I feel like you can't go wrong with Devontae Adams in that spot. You could either go Travis Kelce too, which is also another good pick. But with the Rodgers connection back with Devontae Adams for one more season, I think that Devontae Adams probably is a clear-cut wide receiver one. I mean, Tyreek Hill definitely could have been up there, but I'm happy with that. My second pick, I did reach a little bit on this, but I knew that if I didn't take him here, you probably would have took him Berkey. So I took Antonio Gibson here as my RB1 in the second round.
Okay. Bryan, before you get too ahead of yourself on this, so right now, we're looking at your team. But I just want to give people listening just a little bit of context is you and me spent all season mock drafting against each other. And the few times we were mock drafted back to back, we just absolutely hated it because we couldn't take each other's picks.
Yeah.
That's what ended up happening in this draft. If I can remember correctly, I think it was the situation where I had the 7th pick, you had the 8th pick. And so we were constantly going back and forth, stealing each other's players. So
it tends to happen in most times. And that's just how it is. But
yeah.
I definitely didn't like when I was drafting behind you, but I also like drafting in front of you too.
Exactly. I think there's easily 3 or 4 picks where we each took players that we knew the other guy really wanted and wasn't going to come back around.
Yeah, I mean, that second pick with Antonio Gibson, I mean, you probably still would have took Najee, but the fact that Antonio Gibson could have fell in your lap and we both wanted Eckler and Gibson and Najee,
yeah.
I mean, that was a perfect scenario to just explain like what happened between there.
Okay, great. So we had your first pick, Devontae Adams, second pick, Antonio Gibson. Continue with your draft.
My third pick, I came all the way back around. I think there was 19 picks in between there, so I had a lot of waiting to do. But I did end up with Keenan Allen, which I'm pretty happy with as my next pick. And then it came back around and I took James Robinson. I mean, with Travis Etienne going down, I think James Robinson's going to have a monster season. He broke rookie records as a running back with Gardner Minshew. Now he has the prodigy and Trevor Lawrence this season. So I only see James Robinson going up. I think he's going to have a great season. He has a great week 1 matchup against the Houston Texans. I'm pretty excited to watch him play there. However, I am playing James Robinson in my other league in week 1, which I'm terrified about. And that's just how it is when you have multiple leagues.
That is the double-edged sword of fantasy.
That is. I think my next pick, I'm not 100% sure, but I think I took Deontay Johnson with my next pick after that.
You did because
Myles Gaskin.
No, it was Deontay Johnson because I was about to pick Deontay Johnson myself, and I was like, wait, way to go. And as Bryan took him right off the board.
That was round 6. I'm looking at it now. Bryan had Myles Gaskin in round 5 after.
Okay.
Then I took Myles Gaskin. Did I take Deontay Johnson after that?
You did, yep.
Okay, then I took Deontay Johnson after that because that was the pick right before you, Berkey. So I took Deontay Johnson, then you had the pick right after that. And then I think on the back end, I ended up taking Herbert. And then I probably started going with a couple of my bench guys. Now I can't really see my team at this point, but I think Berkey's going to go to a different order for the draft.
Yeah. John, real quick, how do you find the draft board on Yahoo after you've exited out?
Go up to drafts where it says draft.
I'm drafting right now.
Okay. Draft results?
Yeah, draft results. And then you can do it by team.
There we go.
Yep.
Perfect. A little bit of advice to anyone watching.
Yes. And then I'm down at the bottom.
The Adams Bomb. Good name for your team. I like it.
Yeah. I saw a little picture for it too. I got to change my picture. I found a good one that I found on the internet, but I haven't updated it yet.
All right.
But after Deontay Johnson, what was that?
I was about to say, I feel like Yahoo probably gave you a negative score for reaching Cortland Sutton because I realized you took him like a round and a half early, but I really like that pick, so go on.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with Cortland Sutton. I got Cortland Sutton in this league, and I got Jerry Jeudy in my other league. So I don't know why. I was talking a lot of smack about the Broncos offense, in previous podcasts, but I'm happy with how it turned out because their ADPs are so low. A lot of people do hate on the Broncos offense because when Drew Lock was there, they weren't that good of a football team, but
it's got a stink to it.
People forget that Teddy Bridgewater made DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson both fantasy relevant last year. And I believe that Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton have just as much talent as those two wide receivers. So I expect big things out of them. I then went with Justin Herbert. Can't go wrong with Justin Herbert. Top 3 offensive line in the league. Rookie of the year. Keenan Allen's a beast. Austin Eckler is going to see a lot of work out of the backfield. Mike Williams. I mean, Herbert's going to be a top 5.
What did you for Justin Herbert right there? Were you in on Justin Herbert, or were you taking Justin Herbert because you think he fell to you in your lap right there?
I feel like he just fell in my lap right there, and I feel like the quarterbacks after that. I think I could have took Dak too, but for some reason, I just like Justin Herbert. The offensive, anytime a quarterback can run the ball and can pass the ball, winning Rookie of the Year, smashing records, Keenan Allen's getting 100 catches a year. I mean, I just thought it was a no-brainer at the ADP. Again, I could have took Dak, but the worried shoulder of Dak is what scares me the most. I mean, he went out with a leg injury last year. The shoulders could linger on to the season. Who knows? I just thought it was right to take Justin Herbert in that spot.
Now, there's like, when we come to your team, looking at your bench, we've got a situation where you got Dallas Goedert, Jarvis Landry, Tyler Bass is your kicker. It's hard to look at it when it's on this screen, so I'm going to go back to actually look at your bench. So with your bench, I do like the depth that you have with Myles Gaskin as a running back. You can plug right in. Javonte Williams does make that breakout. You will have an actual valuable running back as your RB2 potential backup. I was just wondering why you took Noah Fant and Dallas Goedert.
Well, the tight ends were pretty tough at that point. I could have ended up taking Robert Tonyan or Rob Gronkowski, but I'm thinking that Jalen Hurts is so hyped up this season. I mean, he played pretty well last year, and I don't think Zach Ertz is very relevant anymore. The Eagles said that Goddard and Hurts already have a great connection this season. I'm still not sure who I'm going to start because Noah Fant, I don't believe in too much. So it's going to be more by a week-to-week basis and see how they pan out of who I'm actually going to end up starting at tight end. But then again, if you don't get a top 5 tight end, you kind of have to just roll with these guys and, kind of hope for the best.
John, let's get a quick update. Where are you in your family draft right now? It's a 10-teamer, right?
It is a 10-teamer. Quick update. I have not drafted a quarterback. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks in. Yeah, I went receiver with Adams and McLaurin, and then I picked Kelsey as well in the second round. So I went Adams, Kelsey, McLaurin. Now I'm stuck with Chris Carson as my RB1, but we're rolling.
Chris RB2 Carson, that's a solid running back to have. But I think you got to pair him with not one of the mid-tier running backs that are going to be not as good as the wide receivers going around them. I'd probably be looking for like Chase Edmonds, Myles Gaskin, maybe a Mike Davis potentially. And then this is actually, I want to talk about this real quick because it could be a strategy you take because it's a family league where if you're not as high on these players as I am, I like taking Raheem Mostert late because everyone's super down on him, even though he could be an explosive second RB2 for you.
Yeah, I ended up with Damian Harris, and then I got Myles Gaskin on the turnaround. So I'm loading up on, the mid-tier RBs.
I like it. All right, now to just move on to my team. So in this draft, in my position, I went super RB heavy because I'm a very RB heavy style drafter. I went with Austin Eckler as my first pick. I took him because I knew Bryan was going to take him immediately after I did. So it's just like,
valid.
If I want him on my team, I have to take him here. On the turn, because of that, the pettiness, Bryan took my champion Antonio Gibson from me. So I was like, I still like Najee Harris. So I took Najee second. And then I was expecting to go wide receiver as my third pick, but for whatever reason, our league elect Clyde Edwards-Helaire fall all the way back to me. So I went RB heavy. And then I paired them with CeeDee Lamb and Julio Jones, who I kind of got cornered into. I was hoping for another wide receiver, but when it came for me to take my wide receiver too, I was on the board. It was like Julio Jones was the last player left in his tier, and then it was dropping down to the next tier wide receivers. So I will take the risk of Julio Jones as my RB2, wide receiver too. Went with the safe pick and TJ Hawkinson, who will just have a high target volume for my tight end. And then my defense is just streaming Miami versus a rookie quarterback. And Jason Sanders is a pretty solid kicker because, as Bryan has constantly mentioned, he hates Tua Tagovailoa. So he's going to have a team that gets you into the red zone but will never score a touchdown.
It's my saying. The Miami Dolphins are good enough to get over the 50-yard line, but they're not good enough to score. Jason Sanders is a great fantasy football kicker.
And so I'm someone who likes to have a deep bench. So for my bench, I have Chase Edmonds, who I believe in a half PPR, even full PPR league, could be that David Montgomery-esque player who comes back at the end of the season, just have an ultimate breakout if James Conner does go down. Then I really just have the rest of my bench is all wide receivers with high upside potential: Antonio Brown, Devonta Smith, Mike Williams, Russell Gage, and Darnell Mooney. And my bench is all wide receivers because I'm super just comfortable at running back, and I know just going to be cycling wide receivers into my lineup all season.
I bet by the end of the season you're starting Devonta Smith over Julio Jones. I just have a feeling.
Oh, I can easily see that too.
I'm pretty high on Devonta Smith. I think Devonta Smith's going to have a great season. He's going to be like a top 15 wide receiver. Julio will probably get hurt at some point, so I can see that happening in your future.
That's the thing with Julio. Like, after I drafted him in the other league, I just knew, I'm like, why am I doing this again? I do this every freaking year.
See, it's a dance that I was never going to do in an early round, but I'll take that dance with Julio in round 6. All right, John, are we ready to dive into your team that Yahoo absolutely just put into a body bag?
Hey, John got the worst draft grade in our other league too, just to put into perspective.
It's unconventional, to say the least. Yeah, no, I was reading through the draft, and actually this one, Yahoo was meaner than the other one. It felt like I was reading through a John Rumney roast.
The thing is, I think it's because your team is so starter, like top heavy, that if you have one injury, you're going to be having to fill holes instead of having one specific group to focus on. Like, I know I'm going to be constantly cycling through receivers. I like John's team. Looking at it on paper,
John's team too. The bench is a little but the starting lineup I think is pretty solid. So I don't know why Yahoo rashed on you so much.
Well, they ripped on me so bad because I took Jonnu Smith in a couple rounds earlier than he should have gone.
Right, but the thing is, Yahoo is like, this guy shouldn't have been drafted, but it's like, Yahoo, I'm going to take the guy at the end of the draft that I really want. So running through your team, you started off Derrick Henry, first pick, fantastic. And then you came back around, Justin Jefferson was sitting right there for you, also a great pick. Round 3, Terry McLaurin, fantastic pick. Then round 4, you went early with your quarterback, and no, you either took, here's where like your one questionable pick for me was Miles Sanders as your running back too. Me and Bryan have been off on Miles Sanders all year. What, in your defense, why is Miles Sanders a good RB2?
Because it's the talent-wise, he's there, and there's nobody really competing with him for like an RB2 role. It's not like he's a running back but by committee. He's going to be carrying the bulk of the carries. So that was kind of my thought process there, and the talent's there. The dude's super fast. He can outrun anyone. You get him in space, he could break out that 80-yard touchdown. So I like that boomer bust candidate in my RB2 because if he breaks a 80-yard touchdown, then I win.
Fair. My one memory of Miles Sanders is when he almost broke an 80-yard touchdown, but then fumbled on the 3-yard lines and his teammate ran it in. So he didn't actually get the statistical touchdown, but he still got like a 70-yard game.
Yeah, no, it happens. But it's not the best RB2, but I'll take it. I like my receivers, and obviously Derrick Henry, which I know Bryan will be mad at me for taking Derrick Henry at the 3 pick and not Kamara, but I had to do it.
Hey, you take your guy.
If only you knew Latavius Murray was going to get dropped, you might have thought a little bit differently. But I know you love Derrick Henry, so it's still not a bad pick.
Derrick Henry brought him to the championship last year and helped him win the championship. So it's not a bad player to pick at spot 3.
And he probably will never get hurt too, because that man is just absolute brick.
Don't say that, Bryan. Don't say that.
I'll knock on wood for you.
Finishing off your draft, John, you took Robbie Anderson as your flex play, which is a great pick in a flex spot after you're very wide receiver heavy, which I do like. So one of your players I'm on the fence about is Logan Thomas, because he had a breakout season last year when he had checked down King Alex Smith throwing him the ball. He has a quarterback this year who typically only throws to his wide receivers, but Logan Thomas does have a big wide receiver role in this offense. How high are you? Help me get people over the edge on drafting Logan Thomas with confidence, or knowing they made a solid pick with this guy.
Because he's versatile. They split him out wide. I mean, we've seen him throw passes before. He'll take the ball on a carry as well. And let's face it, Fitz likes to sling it, whether his target share might go primarily to receivers, but he's also going to sling it 40 times a game, especially when they're down big in games as well. Granted, they have a good defense, so maybe that'll be different this year, but I'm not completely sold on it. I went heavy with Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas with the Washington football team just because I know who Fitzpatrick is.
Oh, Yahoo despises that. I went Antonio Gibson and Terry in another draft, and Yahoo was like, "Oh, you took 2 players from the football team." I'm like, "Yeah, because they're good." Yahoo.
Yeah, they're like, "Do you know what you're doing? Are you okay?" It's like, shut up, Yahoo.
Yeah.
You'd go 2-10 in our league, or 2-15.
The most insulting was like you're projected to go like 5-9 and have that worst team. I'm like, Yahoo, you know nothing. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Usually never pans out like that.
But another player I wanna point out in my team is Kareem Hunt. I've talked about him in the previous podcast. I love having him on my bench because, again, if anything happens to Nick Chubb, whether it's for 2 weeks or 10 weeks, he's an automatic plug and play top 3 running back. So I like stashing him and then start him every.
I still wish Kareem Hunt was on a different. I said this on our draft day the other day, but I wish Kareem Hunt was on a team where he could be the RB1 because he legitimately would be a top 5 running back. Like Nick Chubb does go down, like Kareem Hunt is that good of a player to really win you a championship.
Like if Kareem Hunt could go to like the Jets who are trying to rebuild and really focus and help a young quarterback out, Kareem Hunt would get such an insane workload if he was with the Jets. Even if he was if you replaced him with James Robinson, like if Kareem Hunt was the main guy on the Jaguars, he'd probably have a great season. And there's a handful of other teams that all they need is like one solid guy, but Kareem Hunt is just RB2 in Cleveland.
Yeah.
But John, the last guy I want you to kind of talk about is your Sony Michel pick. Are you confident that Sony Michel will take the workload over from Darrell Henderson? Or do you think he'll be solid enough in a running back by committee to play him in a weekly spot start?
I think he's a better back. I mean, we know who Darrell Henderson is. He's never been the most talented running back. He's just been the guy that's gotten the ball when everyone else is hurt. I think Sony Michel's not done. Like, he's a good running back, and we've seen that in cold weather games in the playoffs. Like, he's a good running back. So I think he's going to take the bulk of the carries, maybe not in the first few games, but definitely towards the end of the year. And he's durable. He's well, is he durable? No, I might
I don't agree. I don't agree with you most of the time, John, but I agree that Sony Michel probably will be the RB1 at some point in that offense. They'll give Darrell Henderson a few weeks. They'll realize he's not that great, and then they'll start giving Sony a little bit more carries, and he'll start running the rock.
Now to transition into the second part of our podcast today, we're talking about the Suns Out, Guns Out, our flex picks of the week. Now, this will be a little bit more in-depth going throughout the season, but because everyone has just drafted or is about to draft, you most likely will be playing the guys you drafted to be your starters. So we've all picked a guy you could have taken in the 6th or 7th round beyond. And just going to talk about how you can play him with confidence going into this week, just because you just want to feel good about the guy who's going to be that potential powder keg to really push your team over the top. So, Bryan, you want to take it away with your pick?
Yeah, I mean, in our league, in our podcast league, I took Cortland Sutton, but for my flex pick, I took Jerry Jeudy. I personally think that sophomore players that are coming out of a good school, had a pretty good rookie season. I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be that guy this season. I think he's going to be the Calvin Ridley of last season. It's pretty tough to say that, but I think he has all the talent in the world. I think he was the number 1 receiver in most uncatchable balls last season. And Teddy Bridgewater, again, made Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore pretty fantasy relevant last season. So I'm expecting big things, but I'd choose Jeudy this week for a flex pick because, one, the Giants just aren't that great. They do have a pretty good defense, but I expect that the Broncos probably come out of this game winning it. But I also think it could be a shootout at the same time. I think there's going to be a lot of defensive turnovers, a lot of balls in the red zone. I could see Jeudy scoring, probably catching like 5 balls in 100 yards. So I'm thinking big things for Jerry Jeudy this season, but I'm also thinking he's going to have a big week 1 to start it off.
So my one, it's not really concern. It's just an observation I want to be watching throughout this game is Giants defensive back Bradbury. He isn't known as one of the most top elite corners, but he is pretty good at shutting down receivers if he does shadow them. So I'm going to be curious to see what the Giants defense decides who's the number one wide receiver to really watch out for. Is Bradbury going to be on Sutton? Is he going to be on Judy, or will he be rotating between the two throughout the game?
I've been hearing that Cortland Sutton's the main number one on the team, and then there's putting Judy in the slot, and Bradbury probably going to be covering Sutton for the first game. But then again, I'm not the Giants, so I can't tell you what they're going to end up doing.
Right. For my flex play of the week, I'm going with Raheem Mustard versus the Lions. We know the Lions have an absolute terrible rushing defense. Players basically went bananas anytime they played the Lions last year. Not much has changed on the defensive side of the ball for them. And we all know that the 49ers have one of the most elite rushing games. Does Raheem Mostert get 20 opportunities a game? No, but you give him 15 touches versus the Lions, he could break off one of those touches easily for a 60-yard touchdown. So I believe Raheem Mostert is going to be a very strong start this week in your flex spot.
Yeah, as long as he's healthy, he's plug and play. I feel like anytime anyone has Mostert, though, he ends up getting hurt by week 6.
It's just something you got to
Montgomery. Yeah, ask Dave Montgomery about the Lions. I'm sure that Mostert's probably going to have a pretty good week 1, and then he's going to tweak his toenail week 2, and he's going to be out for the
season. Tweak his toenail.
Hey, I mean, you split a nail. That hurts.
Yeah.
All right, John, tell me about Kareem Hunt versus the Chiefs.
Give me Kareem Hunt versus his former team in week 1. It's going to be, the Chiefs put up points, and, Kareem Hunt's the guy to catch balls out of the backfield a little bit more than Chubb. I mean, they both can catch the ball, but Kareem Hunt's the third down back. He's going to be catching screen passes or even split out wide a little bit. I'm excited to see what he's going to do in the pass game. And I don't think, we know Nick Chubb's going to take carries, but we saw them last year both be able to produce in a game.
It's game scripted for Kareem Hunt to do well when the Chiefs go up by 20 and then they need to just pass the ball the whole game. So I could definitely see him scoring.
I think you guys got to be at least a little ready for when the Browns keep up with the Chiefs, in the sense, if you remember, they had a very close playoff game last year, and I think the Chiefs got bailed out on a few calls. The Browns could have easily won that playoff game. So I feel like you got to give a little bit more respect to the Browns defense, keeping them a little bit more in a closer game. But it could also be the same situation where the Chiefs go up early and it's more of a passing game through Kareem Hunt than running the ball with Nick Chubb.
Do you know if it's in Cleveland or if it's in KC? I'm not sure.
Let's see.
I feel like if it's in Cleveland, I'd say that Browns could definitely give the Chiefs a run for their money. But if it's in Arrowhead,
it's in Arrowhead.
Oh, okay, that's gonna be a rough day for the Browns.
He's gonna collapse with that crowd. I don't see it being that too close of a game, but you never know. Browns supposed to be a top 3 team this year, so let's see it happen.
Okay, well, boys, grab your paddles, grab your life vests. We're hopping into the streamers of the week. So at quarterback, these are going to be guys that are most likely going to be left on the waiver wire throughout the season, but you could probably pick them up because you like their matchup for the week, and then you're going to drop them the week after. So, Bryan, you went with Jameis Winston versus the Packers. This game is actually going to be played in Jacksonville because of the hurricane damage to New Orleans right now. So we're going to be in an outdoor stadium for Jameis to air it out.
Jameis was already in Tampa Bay. We're talking Mr. 30 and 30. We want the touchdowns. We want to air the ball out. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. It could be like 50-50. Marquez Callaway's catching 2 touchdowns. Kamara's catching 2 touchdowns. If you're going to start Jameis Winston any week, and for whatever reason your quarterback goes down, you didn't draft a backup, and you're looking for a streamer in free agents, Jameis Winston could easily give you 30. He could also give you 10, but I'm pretty high on Jameis Winston. I think that he was a QB1 when he was in Tampa, never really got the shot, and now it's his time to shine.
I like that pick.
It is. It's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's Jameis Winston. We know. Jameis Winston's one of those guys where it's like you play him, but then you can't look at your lineup until after the game is over, because when you see turnovers and interceptions, it's going to upset you and you're going to think you made a mistake, but then he's going to have 20, 25 points by the end of the game.
Right. He might throw 4 picks, but he also might throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. So
yes,
that's the Jameis Winston wild ride.
Yeah. My pick for the week is Captain Kirk Cousins versus the Bengals. And this is because I am not intimidated at all by the Bengals defense. Kirk Cousins had a good year last year. He didn't finish inside the top 10, but I think he's around the top 15 for quarterbacks. And you have to remember, if you believe in Justin Jefferson, if you believe in Adam Thielen, Kirk Cousins is the one throwing them the ball. So if they're going to do well, Kirk has to do well. He's not the type of guy who's going to win you a week with 30 points, but he's a guy, you know, you're going to get a solid 18 to 20 points. And if you win super late round quarterback, that's not asking for too much from Kirk Cousins.
Why do I feel like that every league I'm always in, Kirk Cousins is always projected at the most for every quarterback for every single week, but no one ever picks him up. I feel like that's how it is every single time. I mean, I believe in Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, but I always feel like Kirk Cousins is on the waiver wire and he just stays there throughout the duration of the season.
It's because Kirk Cousins never has a blow-up game. He just has consistent 20-point games where it's enough to get you through your bye week. It's enough to get you through a game or two, but you're never happy playing him every single week, and that's why he's always in the stream.
Yeah, I guess those Dalvin Cook 3-4 touchdown weeks kind of hurt Kirk Cousins, but yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. He also just doesn't have a lot of running upside potential. I mean, he could sneak in a little bit of points there, but he's very much a pocket passer.
Definitely.
John, you're going with the rookie, Mac Jones versus the Dolphins.
Mac attack, baby. Yeah. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. You know, the Dolphins defense, it's improved, but it's still not that great. And, you know, he's been playing really well this preseason. So I like the matchup. I think the Patriots generally have the Dolphins pretty figured out. And I think it's supposed to be good weather, no?
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's see him sling it a little bit. They're a run first team. They're going to do a lot of play action, but we could see Mac Jones throw for 2 or 3 touchdowns off of play action.
Of course. I'm just like, for me, I need to see what a rookie does before I have confidence in starting him. He has looked really good in camp. All the camps I went to take photos, he looked solid. He looked like he knew more than he was doing than Cam Newton. He looked like the better quarterback when he was standing next to Daniel Jones in comparison. So he could surprise a lot of people. I do think they'll be more run heavy to start the season. It's going to be good things for Damian Harris. But you never know. Mac Jones could sneak in a rushing touchdown because no one's expecting him to run. I could see Mac Jones walking away with 250 and 2 at the minimum.
Most accurate quarterback in college football history. So, I mean, I believe in him.
Speaking of building your championship, we know that defense wins championships in sports. In fantasy, streaming defenses wins championships. So, Bryan, Panthers versus the Jets. I'm actually very confident in this matchup, but it's your pick. You can talk through it.
Yeah, I mean, if you needed to stream a defense, I don't think the Panthers – I think when I was looking at them, they're only owned by like 23% of leagues right now. So if you're really in a tough spot, say you have – I don't know. There's some tough matchups out there. If you got who's Pittsburgh playing? I think Pittsburgh has a tough matchup. Oh, they're playing the Bills. Like if you don't want to start Pittsburgh week 1 because they're playing the Bills, like Josh Allen could go off against them, and you want to start, you know, with a tastier week 1 matchup, you could always pick up the Panthers. I mean, the Panthers defense isn't great, but with anytime a defense plays the Jets, you kind of just have to plug and play it and hope that something good's going to happen. I believe in Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson's going to be pretty good for the Jets. However, I still think they're going to be at the bottom of the AFC, and the Panthers do have a slight edge here. So if you want 7 to 8 points of the Panthers and you don't want like a negative number from one of those other defenses, I think the Panthers are a pretty good stream for this week.
For my pick, I'm picking Denver versus the Giants. Now, this is a team that was trying to draft late in several drafts, and then Bryan has stole them from me the pick before I could take them. But why Denver is a great defense to take is because solid defense, but the matchup is juicier. They're playing the Giants. They're banged up a wide receiver. Saquon could be limited or not even play. They have a terrible offensive line, and Daniel Jones is known for turnovers. So this could lead to fumbles, interceptions, sacks, and potential pick sixes. And that's a pick 6 can help you win a week. So I'm going to go be all in with the Denver Broncos wherever I can put them in my lineup. Now, if we go all the way down to a battle of the birds, John, can you talk about picking the Falcons versus the Eagles this week as a defense?
You said it yourself. So the Falcons are ranked terribly this year. They don't have very good defense, particularly their defensive line is not very good, but they've got some quick linebackers and not the worst secondary, and I just don't believe in the Eagles this year. Mostly because Jalen Hurts can't really throw the ball. He's primarily a running quarterback, so they're going to stack the box. And like you said yourself, a pick six can win you a week. And I can smell a pick six coming this game.
I can see a Miles Sanders fumble too, but we'll talk about that later.
All right, so that's it for our streamers of the week. This is a nice small wrap for our podcast. We're going to be coming to you guys with a more structured podcast going through the rest of the season. I'm just excited to get the season underway. As I said earlier, it's basically Christmas morning. Like, it's Christmas Eve right now. We're 2 days away from actually opening up the Thursday night football game and playing with it for 3 hours. And then getting excited for the rest of the games on Sunday and Monday to come. Hopefully your matchups go well. A lot of games come down to the Monday night matchup versus the Raiders and the Ravens. So that's going to be a nice cap to week one. But as always, for our wrap-up, bonus tips is to pay attention to news. Pick your favorite news app to give you constant updates, because one of the best ways to win your league is to keep paying attention to the news going on, because if someone gets hurt and they're open on waivers, being the first team to pick up that guy is huge, because after the waiver wire goes, everyone's kind of free on the market. Do you guys have any other things you want to add to before we wrap this up?
I'm excited for Sunday. I'm going to get hopefully 3 wins out of all 3 of my leagues, but we'll see.
It rarely ever happens. If for 3 leagues, usually you'll go 2-1.
You'll definitely probably go 2-1. I agree with that. It rarely happens, but hoping the best.
I'm hoping for a nice 5-0 to start the week.
That'd be nice. That would be nice. Well, best of luck to all the listeners, except the ones in our league that are not me. So especially, who am I playing this week? Cam, maybe?
I believe so. I think you're playing Cam.
Yeah. All right. Yep. Best of luck to everyone except Cam.
All right. We gotta make sure we're drinking for the rest of the episode. So cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Cheers.